We're walking on something that was made almost 300 years ago.
Where the railroad would have used this right away so they could locate both ends, so eventually they could work inside, meeting each other in the ground below us.
So they made this clearing, straight line across the mountain, and they went from monument to monument and would have turned in a complete 180.
Okay, men who didn't serve in the war based on religious beliefs, so Mennonite, Quaker, and Church of the Brethren.
Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to what is going to amount to our historic tour of Fulton County, Pennsylvania. We're going to start this episode off right where we left off last week, which was exiting the Railroad Arch Trail near Sidling Hill. We explore what originally was a CCC camp, which we'll explain a little bit more here in a second in the video. After looking at the CCC camp, we went into Breezewood and got lunch, and thank you again to Russ for he treated us to lunch, so that was really nice and we appreciate that. After that, we're going to do kind of a driving tour of some South Pennsylvania Railroad routing. We stop and film a few snippets, and we look at how tunnels were surveyed, designed, and built. It's a fairly interesting process, and I learned a lot about that. And we also look at the upper section of the Forbes switchbacks. So, you know, that's just the beginning of our exploration of the Forbes Road, and more on that in next week's episode. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff in Fulton County, and interesting work as far as the South Pennsylvania Railroad and the Pennsylvania Turnpike, so let's get into it. Alright, well friends, this is a new episode, but we're still here in the Buchanan State Forest, where we're camping up at Site 25, is it?
Yes, that's Site 25.
And we just got done looking at the railroad grade, but now we're here at what originally was a CCC camp. It looks like this is camp number 20, and this then became a POW camp for World War II.
It's not a POW camp.
No?
It's Conscientious Objectors Civilian Public Service.
Conscientious Objectors Civilian Public Service.
So people, okay, men who didn't serve in the war based on religious beliefs, so Mennonite, Quaker, and Church of the Brethren. Wow, engaged in mental health care and medical experiments here. That's messed up. Also some other stuff: forestry, dairy farms, other civic projects. So they sent them here.
Yeah, okay. So it says this.
Okay, there's the prisoner of war.
It was a prisoner of war camp, I guess later. So from 33 to 37, it was a CCC. PA Turnpike Contractors Camp from 39 to 40. And then the COCPS, or CPS, I guess. That was from 41 to 44. And then from 45 to 46, it was a German prisoner of war camp. We're here, obviously. And then number 11, it doesn't say what things are, so that does kind of suck. But number 11, I guess, is that building over there, and I think that's the general quarters. If you took a picture of this and you walked around each individual place, there are numbers, and they tell you what things are. But it still is kind of difficult.
It says they paid them 80 cents a day for their work, but it was like only coupons. They could only trade it in for like basic supplies at the canteen. So it's not like they could bribe the guards to get out by saving money. They just, but that's an interesting concept, to pay your prisoners of war for the work they're doing.
The flagpole, I think I read, is cool, but the chimney's over here, and so we're gonna go check it out. So friends, right here there's a concrete slab, which is, it's a square shape, and so if I'll probably try to get a like a screenshot or something of the aerial photo and put it in the video here so you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's different stone monuments along this clearing, and I took a better picture because you can't really see it this way in the video, but if you look back towards my truck, this is the line of the tunnel, the Sidling Hill Tunnel.
Directly over the tunnel, where the railroad would have used this right away so they could locate both ends, so eventually they could work inside, meeting each other in the ground below us.
So just like the fill that we talked about, they started on both ends and worked towards the center. Well, this is the same way, but they had to find the other end.
Correct.
So they made this clearing, straight line across the mountain, and they went from monument to monument and would have turned in a complete 180. And then when they ran out of vision, because they've got to go up the hill and down the hill, put a monument, did a 180 to the next
And built another
farthest place that they could see, put another monument, and then...
It almost looks like there's at least 6 the minimum. But we've only discovered this one.
Yes. Now you said, what was it, Laurel Hill?
Laurel Hill has 3.
And they're taller stone monuments.
They're about the same square as that monument there. But they're taller. I had to use a ladder to get up on the one, and I would have did the other. Actually, all 3 would have needed a ladder, but I'm not carrying a ladder in the woods. And the tree line is different than the rest of the tree line. That's continuation headed over to the west side of the Sidling Hill Tunnel.
Yeah, so you can see there's a difference in the trees there. This was totally cleared out at some point. But I just wanted to show you guys this because it's interesting to me. Tunnels in general, we talked about it when we went to Staple Bend years ago. They started on both sides and worked towards the center. And that would have been built, the Portage Railroad was
early
1800s.
Before 1812.
So, and that was the first railroad tunnel in the United States. These would have been obviously later, but I always wondered, how do they get to the center and how do they figure this out? Well, this is how they figured it out.
They did both ends, and they just started, their equipment's so precise that they were able to get in like this. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Otherwise...
So, friends, I know we're really jumping back and forth here between topics, but this is just the lay of the land and the way we're experiencing it. Now, we're on Mountain Road near Houstontown, near the 170-mile marker on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. It would be just below us. You might hear some road noise from the Turnpike. I apologize for that. But, hey, listen, we are looking for Forbes Road, General Forbes Road.
The very upper part of it.
Quick history on that. Forbes was after Braddock died, General Braddock died. Forbes took over the mission to get stuff from, it was from Philly, correct, to Pittsburgh?
Right.
From Philadelphia to
Benjamin
Pittsburgh.
Franklin's job was to provide supplies. So it came from Philadelphia.
Which is where Ben Franklin lived, correct?
Right.
It was in Philadelphia.
And Forbes came in from Philadelphia to Carlisle, or Harrisburg, crossed Harris Crossing, which is just a little bit south of Harrisburg, and then crossed there, and then eventually ended up in Carlisle, eventually hitting Fort Loudon. Okay, come on, we're gonna go right up here at the
At the peak.
Huh?
At the peak of the hill.
Yeah.
So Russ here, he discovered the upper switchbacks accidentally while looking for the railroad monuments that we just shown you. Because a lot of people thought...
I was trying to avoid having to walk down a heavy hillside. And so I stepped off to the south this way as I was on top. And when I did, I ended up in this dip right behind this hill. And when I did, I didn't think anything about it, didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was the original road here and that it was changed. But it wasn't until Kenneth Keebaugh, a teacher from Fulton County, who discovered, again, because somebody else knew about it before that, the switchbacks on the other side of the turnpike. That brought my attention to what I had stepped into up here. And when you put them together, this is the top edge of Forbes Road. So
there's 7 switchbacks on the map, which I'll show you the map. A lot of people thought that when they built the new route of the turnpike to bypass the abandoned turnpike, which is down below, which Sidling Hill and all that stuff, that's why it's all right here, friends. They thought that the new route of the turnpike totally wiped out Forbes Road.
Coming from this little dip right here.
Okay.
Look across the road. You see an opening
to the
right of the tall evergreen trees.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's Forbes Road.
Okay.
I had to continue through here.
I see that too, because it looks like right here.
You can see how the grass growing on the berm of the road then drops a little bit.
Okay.
That lines up with this.
Yeah, I can see it right there.
So let's do this.
So right here, you can see.
This is kind of grown over here, but where do we get deeper in?
I mean, it's pretty grown up, but what, 1758?
1758.
That was a long time ago, so obviously these trees that are on the road, you can tell they're that old because we have a date, concrete date. So I mean, these
you
trees.
Can see, look across again, how this lines up with that.
And if you look back across the road, and we've seen it coming in, I mean, it's a definitive line and clearing.
And that lines up with this.
And it you know, if you weren't looking for this and you didn't know it was here, you'd think it was a ditch.
You'd think it was a ditch.
Or you just drive by and not even pay attention. But we're walking on something that was made almost 300 years ago. And this would have been for the French and Indian War.
Right. We needed to kick the French out of Pittsburgh.
That's what it was, yes. So they were bringing supplies to Pittsburgh for the French and Indian War for Fort Duquesne, I believe.
We'll get into it. It's more easy to recognize. See now, see the lower ditch?
Yeah.
Okay. And here I am with bad eyesight, and I can see it. It is Forbes Road.
Well, and you can just tell too by the fact that these old trees are growing on it.
Well, it's going to curve down here, so keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looks like it either went down that way or this way.
Maybe, yeah, I think that is. Remember, I have good eyesight. Yeah, you're clearly in it.
And so, like, all this transportation history is right here because this was the easiest route from east to west. That's why your turnpike was built here. It's not a coincidence, right? Braddock was bringing people through this way. Braddock's supplies on Braddock's Trail, they were going up Woodbridge Creek, correct?
Yeah.
And they, for some reason, Forbes could not come up Woodbridge Creek.
Could not have.
It curves right down, and then the current turnpike is down there, so they would have gotten rid of some of the switchbacks.
Well, we know remember when we started walking, I said I needed to get off the railroad overhead area, and I shifted down, so the railroad is over to our left.
Over that way, yeah.
And we know that Forbes Trail, remember, it's to the south of the tunnel.
Uh-huh.
And we're to the south.
And we're on the south of the tunnel.
Right.
And we have maps to prove it, you know.
See the curve we just walked through?
I mean, if you can see, hopefully our tracks in the leaves
two
there.
dark trees.
And yeah, right in between them two dark trees. I mean, you can clearly see. And this was cut with very, very primitive equipment. I mean, even more primitive than the railroad, because the railroad was 100 years after.
Look how it heads to that yellow sign.
Yeah, so I'm very bad at pointing on this camera, but there's a yellow sign over there, and it curves right down to it.
And eventually goes down over the hill, crosses the turnpike. This turnpike removed part of the Forbes Trail, but then the teacher from Houstontown, Kenneth Keebaugh, discovered the bottom part of it, but he didn't know about this part until I showed it to him. And like I said, I came rolling off that hill and ended up in here, but I didn't think too much about it.
Yeah,
but once in, after I came back, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Forbes Trail. And plus it lines up on the other side of the road up there.
Yeah. So tomorrow, maybe, if we got weather conducive, I want to go down to the lower portion and walk up a bit and just show you guys some of it and connect all the dots. But to do that, we've got to walk through the CCC camp and through the Sidling Hill Tunnel, which is over a mile long. And I want to film that for you guys too. We've been through it before, but I didn't do it for the channel. And then maybe we can find the lower portion of this. But to be walking on this up here, 300 years, well, 270, I'll be precise. I mean, it's interesting, and it's here clear as day.
Have an imagination of what they were doing. Look at this. Just look at this to the left.
All right, friends, so we've been doing a little bit of a driving tour, obviously, and we've been looking at the different areas of the railroad grade as it relates to the South Pennsylvania Railroad, as well as the Turnpike and some other roads and some other things and historical stuff. But if you look across this field here, where all them, there's a word for them, the trees, the purple trees, and they're not dogwoods, they're something else. But anyhow, that tree line over there, that is the Shade Gap branch of the East Broadtop Railroad. Much like the South Pennsylvania, it was a portion of railroad grade that the grade was being worked on and never completed, and they never laid track. You guys know it is a goal of mine to get up to East Broadtop this fall and ride the train. Steam is back at the East Broadtop, but this branch was never completed. Part of the way that they had permission and authorization to create this South Pennsylvania Railroad, which, friends, you might be able to see just over there, that's the Tuscarora Turnpike Tunnel. Keep in mind that the South Penn followed the Turnpike. Well, part of the way they were authorized to build that railroad is because it was going to save money and time transporting coal on the East Broadtop. Instead of going north to the Pennsylvania, they could go south to the South Pennsylvania, and that was going to save time. And so that was part of how they were authorized to do this, right? Because it could save 2 hours. Why are they going and taking the coal north to Mount Union just to take it back south? Well, this way they just took it south, and they were going to take it right to here. And, then they would have transferred right over there where the maintenance buildings is. That's the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So that's where it would have connected with the South Penn, and they would have, flip-flopped cargo or however. Anybody else with any more info on that or the Shade Gap branch of East Broadtop, feel free to leave me some stuff down in the comments. But we are headed back to our campsite, and we're going to get some dinner and learn some more and look at some more maps and kind of study this thing. So we'll see you back at the camp.